Are we now in a buyer's market? Are online businesses actually cheaper to buy? Hi, I'm Jaryd Krause, and I'm the host of the Buying Online Businesses podcast. And today I'm speaking with Elfrink, who is the Director of Marketing at Empire Flippers. In this podcast episode, Greg and I talk about what most beginners do wrong when actually buying their first online business and how you can become an attractive buyer and buy businesses for less than your competitors wanting to buy those businesses. We also talk about what happened with the FBA aggregators and how and why they lost so much money, but also were able to increase the multiples and the prices of most online assets. We also talk about the different types of online businesses Empire Flippers sell. And then we move into talking about how sellers of their people want to sell their online business, how they're not actually getting the prices they used to be able to get to, and why we've been moving into a buyer's market, something that Greg and I predicted back at the end of 2022. We also talk about the multiples of businesses for the rest of the market, what that actually looks like, and we then dive into some AI chats, talking about AI and affiliate marketing. Is affiliate marketing doomed? Are we all doomed because of AI? I'm not trying to fear sell you into anything. I'm a big advocate of AI, and so is Greg, and we talk about why you should use AI, but also how AI could look for our industry in 2 to 5 years and what we should actually be looking for. And how we should shape our online businesses using AI. We also talk about how buying and selling online businesses could actually evolve in the future for the online M&A space. So there's so much value in this podcast episode. I'm sure you're going to love it. We also talk about, because we talk about buying online businesses here, I want to make sure that you don't just rush into buying a business. Make sure you go away and get my due diligence framework. It's what I use, all of my clients use to go away and buy businesses from Empire Flippers and other marketplaces and brokers as well. And it's helped people save millions of dollars and make millions of dollars just through using this framework. So get that at buyingonlinebusinesses.com/free resources. Do you have a website you might want to sell either now or in the future? We have a hungry list of cashed up and trained up buyers that want to buy your content website. If you have a site making over $300 per month and want to sell it, head to buyingonlinebusinesses.co/sell your business or email us at info@buyingonlinebusinesses.com because we will likely have a buyer. Details are in the description. Greg, welcome back.
Thank you, my friend. It's always good to come back here. I'm a big fan, as always. Glad to be back.
Thank you. I checked the last time we chatted live, recorded something on the Bob channel, was episode 19.
Wow.
And we are up to about episode 220. I think this is 220 something. So we've done over 200 episodes now. And the first episode we did was like basically us in our infancy. And it was
before the beard.
It was like, pre-beard. Yeah, you've had 20 episodes to grow this awesome beard. The podcast was called The Most Valuable Business to Buy according to 50 mil of data. So it would have been 3.5-ish years ago. And I think that's when you guys at Empire Flippers started actually gathering or at least publishing the data of sold businesses. And we broke that down, which was great.
And that's wild. It was so long ago. I could have sworn I did this with you not even just a few months ago. But yeah, time flies, I guess.
Time absolutely flies. So this is just going to be just a chat and I just wanted to record it because I know there's going to be a lot of value that's going to come out of it for everyone. So first thing I wanted to chat to you about is obviously online businesses and beginners, and wondering where do you see most beginners go wrong when they think, all right, I'm going to buy a business, and they come to Empire Flippers and they've just found some of my stuff and they're like, oh, Jaryd said buying a business is good. And we send them over to you guys and you're like, well, yeah.
Stop sending these.
Stop sending us beginners.
Usually your crowd is pretty good. So new buyers, if they've been doing a research like on YouTube and stuff like that, it's very common for a new buyer to fall into this trap. Like, I call it the zero money down trap, where they see a guru that's like,
Yeah.
hey, look, you can buy this business for no money down, all this stuff. Like, well, it's true you can do something like that. It's extremely unlikely you're able to do that at all with our businesses, because they're very asset light, being by the nature of being an online business. But you can do zero money down stuff. I'm not saying like that doesn't exist. It doesn't. It just doesn't exist in the way a buyer thinks. It exists by over leveraging yourself. So basically, taking out a massive loan to make this work. So, like, the realities of a deal like that is nowhere near as sexy as a new buyer initially thinks. Also, is extremely hard to do this, so don't recommend trying. The other thing that new buyers make the mistakes on, they, and this isn't so much like a glaring error as more as just like they just don't know what they don't know, and that is
Mm.
asking the right questions and knowing what questions to ask. So, like, if you don't know anything about backlinks, for example, like you don't know enough about SEO to even know backlinks are important, you're not even going to ask about the backlink profile. You don't know what you're looking at. Like, yeah, it's all gobbledygook to me, right? Like, but that's an extremely important part of the SEO. Like, you need to
Yeah.
know about this, about the distribution of those anchor tags, all that good stuff, right? So a big problem new buyers run into, like probably the biggest problem, no matter where they're coming from, is just not knowing the right question to ask. So
Yeah.
that's where people like you and us come in handy, because we can help guide people, right?
Yeah, spot on. We have specific questions for each particular business model, and in our group, in our members area, people ask, what sort of other questions should I be asking? We just had an episode go live with somebody who's just bought a business, like a case study, talking about some of the questions they asked the seller. And one of the people in our group was like, "Hey, can you send over your questions?" And they did. They shared the questions they asked the sellers on seller calls and throughout, just doing due diligence. But I also came in with the caveat of like, "Hey, look, those questions may be really good questions, but each question should be specific to each business because A, you don't want to waste the seller's time asking irrelevant questions. B, you don't want to be wasting your time. And C, you don't want to look like an unattractive website buyer by not knowing what to do and what information to look for."
Yeah,
Right?
100%. So the way I usually describe it is having your due diligence checklist system. So, like,
Mm,
and I view it in multiple stages. So the first stage is the quickest stage, where you're just trying to disqualify a business as quickly as possible. Like, your 5 minute check could be like, must be an affiliate site, must be 4 years old, must be making this amount of profit, this amount of traffic across this many pages. Like, maybe you have like five to 10 things are like really quick to check off your list without even talking to the seller. Like, just looking at the P&L and the traffic statement, like the information we provide on our marketplace, right, is enough for your
yeah.
5 minute check. And then you go deeper, and the second phase could still be very systemized, like the same questions for every business, but this time it takes you maybe 30 minutes to go through it all, 30 minutes to an hour, still not like too long. And your goal is still to disqualify the business, because it's easier to disqualify an okay opportunity to find a perfect opportunity than trying to make an okay opportunity into the perfect opportunity. So it's really good to be strict with yourself with this stuff. But after that second phase, that's when I really recommend talking to the seller, because at this point, now you should have those unique questions that only the seller could really answer. And that's when you
Mm,
go into that kind of conversation. And to your point, you're right. You need to come equipped, like, be serious, show them that you've done your due diligence, right? Like, if you're just a looky loo, there's no better way to turn off that seller. You want that seller to be motivated to sell to you, especially because
yeah.
if they like you, most of the time a seller will take a lower offer to work with you versus someone giving them a higher offer that they like less. So this is all very, very
Mm.
important. You got to show you're listening to the seller.
I'm so glad that you shared that because you said most of the time, a seller will sell their business for lesser to work with somebody that knows what they're doing because they're going to hand over that business to somebody that has talks the talk, right, and
Yeah.
and walks the walk, and it's going to be an easier transition. They're going to be able to have a better relationship. It's just going to be a far better experience for everybody. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's why I even have a business. Like that's what it's all about.
One thing to add on that, you don't need to be an expert to make that succeed. You just need to be a nice person. Like you just need to be nice. Like you could be brand
Yeah,
new and the seller will prefer to go with you for multiple reasons. One, they like you, you're a nice dude, and two, they want to help you out. You're new. They want you to succeed almost more than they want to succeed themselves, right? So
yeah,
you don't have to
yeah.
be like an expert to make that work, but you do have to show you're listening and paying attention to what the seller is talking about, right?
Correct. Yeah. Most of our buyers, I teach people to become attractive buyers, which is to ask specific questions, focus on the relationship and the asset, not just the asset and forget about there's a person that's you're actually trying to buy it off. You need to win them as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I often joke with because most buyers and sellers on our marketplace, like we get a fair share of a new crop of people coming in all the time from SEO, but a lot of our buyers and sellers are pretty established nowadays. And I
Mm,
always think it's really funny because most of them have a pretty serious background in marketing, especially at the higher levels of the business valuations. But they always forget like marketing 101 when it comes to buying and selling a business. They're like, yes, I'm going to do top of funnel marketing. I'm going to understand the pain points of my audience, solve those pain points for my affiliate site or e-commerce store. And the moment that they go to sell the business, that like all that marketing knowledge is just thrown into the trash can. Like it's like they don't care at all about the buyer's pain points or the buyer's problems. When this is like the most important customer in your entire marketing funnel right now with what
yeah.
you're trying to
Yeah. It's the
accomplish,
end
right?
of the line. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's the same way
I
for
think,
buyers too. So they just throw away business principles when they get into M&A.
I think it's really because do you think it's because there's so much emotion involved in it? It's like, oh, I want to make sure like I do the right thing. I also want to make sure I sell it for the right price or buy it for the right price. I don't want to get ripped off. Like, do you think that's because our judgment gets clouded from the emotional aspect of selling something that's like maybe been their baby for the last 5 years?
Yeah. So as a marketer, I can empirically say everything is based on emotion. So like
Yeah,
everything is emotional. Buying and selling businesses is especially emotional because it's never easy. Even when the process is simple, like we try to make it as simple as possible. But even with
mm,
us, there's tons of challenges that will come up. There's things that are missed. There's like things you didn't think about. Like there's cold feet. There's angry feet. Because you got to fight with the seller or whatever, right? So there's
mm,
always
mm,
problems when you're coming to sell or buy a business. Even the simplest version of it's challenging, and that's okay. It's part of the deal. I see emotions that range the gamut, like higher end buyers, like during the aggregator craze, for example. I had this one buyer. He was an aggregator. One of the guys that raised millions and millions of dollars. He actually lost deals because of his own ego, where
yeah,
he was so arrogant about everything. Like anytime a seller would get on the call, like most sellers were like super bootstrap, right? That grew to a 7-figure business. And he was like Mr. Wharton Business School talking about all this spreadsheet math, about how he won all these awards, all this stuff. It's like, dude, none of that matters. Like you're trying to
yeah.
make a deal happen here, and you are literally killing every chance you get. Funny enough,
Yeah.
that guy in
Too much of a jock.
specifically, yeah, he was a spreadsheet jock, but he was terrible at running e-commerce stores. So he was one of the aggregators, I believe, that actually collapsed in on itself. Which I just like
Yeah.
the irony of that was very fitting.
It's when, how do you teach somebody that doesn't want to learn, right? Like,
Yeah, you
or
don't.
isn't open to hearing. Like, I learn from people in my business that work with me that, you know, everybody just from editors to contents, links, everything, there's there shouldn't be a hierarchy, I don't believe, in terms of learning and becoming better.
Yeah,
And yeah,
the
I
best
mean,
entrepreneurs I know are constantly learning. So I agree with that.
yeah, yeah. And just for people listening, when you say the aggregator, phase for people listening, what Greg's, I'm presuming you're talking about the FBA, fulfillment by Amazon. People were
Yeah.
basically, aggregating those businesses in
It
through
was a
basically through
classic M&A roll up for FBA.
yeah, basically through 2021 and to sort of to the end of 2022, right?
I would say the season was more 2020 to 2021, and 2022 is when everyone started bleeding and dying. So that was like the slow stagnation to their doom, where they
Yeah,
realized like, huh, we're really good at the M&A part of this. We're not so good at running
yeah.
the business part of it, though.
I remember mid 2021. I went to a uh, a big event, the Open Flipper open source event, and there was a guy there from Sydney who had a team, and they were just aggregators. And the amount of money that they was spending and wanting to buy businesses, they wanted to get me on board, and it was insane how much money was being thrown around,
Oh yeah,
and
man, it was wild.
insane how many people got burnt through that. Do you want to speak to that a little bit, and the rise and the fall of that?
Oh, sure. So they weirdly enough, they were our best like customer on the buy side for obvious reasons. They were buying big
Yeah.
businesses, but they were also like my competitor, and they like had some really smart dudes like on their marketing team. Like it was hard to compete with them, especially when they were
Mm.
like I can't compete with them giving away a Tesla if you sell their business with them. Like I get
Yeah.
like this is impossible for me because like my
Yeah.
my income based on selling a business is finite. Theirs is potentially infinite if they're able to grow the
Mm.
business, right? Because they end up owning the businesses. But the rise of the aggregator, like we knew that was always going to happen, like in some shape or form. We didn't know what business model. We just knew it would happen in the online business world.
Mm.
So it
Mm.
happened with FBA. I the first one was Thrasio. Still good
Yeah.
friends with a lot of the founders of Thrasio. But to give you a spoiler warning, like the corporate board of Thrasio basically kicked the founders out. So they're not even part of their own company that they built now. And that was a billion
Yeah.
dollar company. And I know another $1 billion company that's not too dissimilar from that situation now. But so the what happened is Thrasio rose up, they started buying all this stuff, making all this hype. Other PE guys were like, "Wow, that sounds really cool," because what they were doing was really unique and innovative. Like Thrasio, the original founding team at least, and a lot of people who are still there, were amazingly talented e-commerce people. Like they weren't just
Mm.
PE people; they actually ran e-commerce and they were agency owners for e-commerce clients, so they knew what they were doing. And so they came in, started buying all these FBA businesses for low multiples back then. And fast forward, we see other people starting coming to the space. This is like 2019, wanting to get involved. And then boom, COVID happens. Everything shuts off. And now everyone's moving online because no other, like the main street's
You can't
dead,
buy things
right?
from the physical
Yeah.
store.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't even go outside of your house depending on where you live, right?
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is all the other PE firms who normally would invest in a lot less risky things like stocks and real estate, they start investing into these alternative assets too because they want to get on the same hype, the gravy train that Thrasio is on. This creates a
Mm.
whole hype train, this virtuous cycle where we even had real estate developers and real estate investors, like commercial people, get out of their commercial real estate and buying FBA businesses because they got so sold on the aggregator hype. And the
Mm.
aggregators were using Thrasio and Perch, who had raised enough money to be both worth $1 billion. I think Perch was worth $1 billion as well. That it just created this massive hype storm. And I remember realizing, and this is the fall, I remember realizing it was in late 2021, I believe. Or no, it was middle of 2021, I believe, when this happened. I was listening to a call and they found like one of the buyers looking to buy a business. They asked like if Thrasio had made an offer, and of course we didn't want to tell them that, or we said there were other offers, but the seller's like, "Yeah, Thrasio made an offer." Like, okay, and so the person was like, "Good enough for me." And their entire due diligence was based on whether or not another aggregator that they knew made an offer. There was no other research that they did. And in my mind,
Yeah.
I was like,
That's
this
crazy.
is crazy. This is like a $3
Yeah.
million business. Like it's not the biggest thing in the world. For us it's quite
Mm.
big, but like your due diligence is literally just based on you trying to copy your competitor. Like this isn't good.
That's ego. That's all ego.
Yeah, exactly. It's like good enough for them,
Yeah.
good enough for me type of mentality. So it's like buying like swampland in Florida. Like let's see who gets scammed first. And
Yeah.
it all came crashing out. So after COVID ended in like 2022, or started winding down rather, where you saw a few different things happen. So suddenly online traffic 30% less versus where it was. It's still much higher than it was pre-pandemic, but there's a significant drop as people go back outside. And Amazon, you see saw the most critical loss of traffic, I think, out of any of the major internet properties, which obviously affects FBA dramatically, right? So
Yeah.
you see that. You also see things like the Ukraine and Russia war, which ironically, I was telling people the supply chain will probably get back to normal, barring any other black swan event, and then boom, war. Like,
Black
okay,
Swan.
who would have thought? This is just a decade of black swans, I guess. But so that creates all this fear in the market, and especially in the public markets. And if you see in the public market, like the stock market, you see precipitous dips, like cliffs. Always in the private market, it's like 10 times worse because the private market doesn't have people like the internet meme bros keeping stocks alive by investing in
Mm,
GameStop. Like private
mm,
capital doesn't work that way. It's much more rigid. So if public markets get hit, private markets get hit way worse. All the aggregators, they're loaded up on debt from these private markets. Now the roosters are coming
mm,
home like, hey, what's going on? And the realization that they're not good at running e-commerce businesses. Like the vast majority of FBA businesses these guys bought had either stayed the same or were doing marginally worse to incredibly worse. Very few of them actually gained money. Now, Thrasher, they did
yeah.
really good. Most of their businesses did do well, but they actually were e-commerce people. Most of these other guys were just PE people, which was a major issue for the failing. So that's the unwinding of it all. Hype train, too much debt, not knowing what they're
Yeah.
doing, made them fragile. Economy gets punched in the stomach. They're like, well, I guess we're going under.
So it was so wild to see. I remember I remember speaking to, or even just seeing your businesses from Empire Flippers and from other places come across our desk when we're reviewing these before people buy them. Looking at the multiples of FBA businesses compared to content sites,
Oh,
I'm just
huge.
like,
Yeah.
what? I'm like, how? And these people are a lot of people coming to me, Jaryd, I want to buy an FBA business. FBA is the way to go. I'm like,
The
have
hype
you ever
train, yeah.
do you have you owned any online business ever in your life before? As like, no, but FBA is the way to go. I want to buy an e-commerce business, FBA, and the multiples are sky high compared to a content site, like creeping up towards like some good SaaS and
Yeah.
membership
Oh.
type business multiples, and it was wild to see that people, yeah, I mean, got lured into it. Yeah, it is only a matter of time when people buy e-commerce businesses and they don't know what they're doing. There's typically those business models are the most fraught with a lot of work that needs to go into them for them to work, and then also profit margins are quite low compared to say blogs and other types of
Yeah.
businesses. So
Uh,
it's a
like
very slippery slope.
I think the growth potential of an e-commerce store is better than an affiliate site. And when I say
Correct.
e-commerce store, I mean like DDC, not Amazon FBA. I think Amazon
Yeah.
FBA is great training wheels, but it ultimately handicaps you if e-commerce is the thing you want to do. But I'm a fan of affiliate sites, similar to you. Like for a new
Yeah.
buyer, affiliate sites are easy to understand. It's a very simple business model, and there's only a few things you really need to work on to make it happen.
I agree with you on the e-commerce businesses that are off Amazon. You can scale them a lot quicker. Typically, and I want to explain why to everybody listening, is typically because if they have marketing campaigns that are already working, is you can just pour more money into marketing, and it's like jet fuel, and it can scale a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not telling people to go and do that unless they understand digital marketing and understand how to run one of those e-commerce businesses.
Yeah, yes.
But yeah, you can. I
Scaling
agree with you. It is.
comes with its own death traps if you don't know what you're doing.
Well, what I always see with scale in my business and other people's businesses is we get the scale, and then you have to reorganize systems and team, and you get to a level that you can only go so fast, and then parts of the business or the vehicle break down, and you need to tighten them up, and then get other people involved to make sure that those pieces aren't going to fall apart in that business. So,
Yeah, I like
scale
to
is a
call you scale to inadequacy and then you have to stop because if you keep scaling in that inadequacy, the small problem suddenly becomes a gaping hole that would destroy your business, right? So you got to change
Yes.
the system as things change.
Yeah. Reinvent. Um, it's like what I'm talking. I'm talking to somebody with a content site at the moment, helping them grow their content site, and what the person did to build it to the level they're at. I'm pretty sure they bought it from you guys. Actually, they got the content site to say, I don't know, it's like $4,000 a month, and they might. I think they got like 400-500 posts or something like that. But what
Hmm.
got them to that level is not going to get them from $5,000 to $10,000. It's going to be a different strategy typically, and that I think a lot of people that buy businesses don't understand that it's not just continual volume of content and just buying links. There's a lot more different types of unique strategies and unique to each business as well. Even
Excuse me.
even an affiliate site or a content site. Uh, I wanted to I wanted to chat about what type of businesses you actually sell more of at Empire Flippers these days. Through 2022 up until now in 2023.
So I would say in 2022 we were still selling probably predominantly Amazon FBA.
Mm,
As 2022 came to an end, we were selling less and less of those. So now we sell very few FBA businesses. Like we still have them and we're still selling them, but I would say the pendulum has swung back to affiliate sites as our predominant site because a
mm.
giant cohort of our customer base just died. Right, the aggregators, they're
There's
literally no
no more
more.
money in that pool anymore.
Yeah, and that has obviously sent ripples of fear throughout anyone who wanted to buy an FBA business. Like, oh my god, this $1 billion company died. How could I buy an
Mm,
FBA business? Like, well, if you've been paying attention, you're probably in a better position because you probably understand e-commerce better than these guys. So just keep that in mind.
mm.
So there's still plenty of money to be made in FBA. So don't let their $1 billion mistakes stop you from creating your own wealth if that's what you want to do. But yeah, in terms of our marketplace, affiliate sites, content sites in general are really big. I would say on content sites, display ads in particular are really big right now.
Mm,
I think
mm.
part of that is the hangover of just physical supply chains because a lot of affiliate products are physical products that you're promoting, right? And I think there's a certain level of passivity, of hands off kind of style of monetization with ads. And I'm a big fan of display ads. I think at scale, a content site at scale will make more money with display ads than with affiliate. And
Mm.
it allows you to go after all these super low hanging keywords that are like the informational articles, like
Yeah.
why are castles gray? You know, like you're not selling anything there. You might have a display ad that someone can click, right? But yeah, so that's what we're seeing. Also, we saw an uptick in Kindle businesses. So these are tend to be like modern day publishing houses,
Mm,
and we've always
mm.
sold them, but this year in particular, we've sold quite a few big ones. And I think it's so strange. This is like the weirdest business model we sell. We almost never talk about it, but we have sold several millions of dollars worth of these businesses that are like, they'll have a pen name, a ghost name of an author who's just
Mm.
writing like random romance novels or sci-fi novels or low content books, and it's like a
Yeah.
whole modern day publishing house, which I find intriguing. But yeah, so that's basically where the market is at the moment.
I remember seeing a lot more of those on your marketplace, like 2018, 2019.
I would say that was the
Yeah.
heyday of that business model. That's when it
Yeah.
really came online. I mean, Amazon FBA not too far before that. Amazon FBA really
Yeah.
came on the market in 2017. That's when that hustle really started getting big.
I like the digital products, selling those books on Amazon. One thing that I typically tell people to check is if they are going to buy those types of businesses, having a look at single source dependency on maybe one book, having most of the revenue, and making sure you maintain that listing
Yes,
as you
I,
own.
I would
Yeah,
always recommend like the books should be related to each other enough to where you build an email list because like playing on someone else's platform is a dangerous game. You never know what
yeah,
Amazon's going to do. And there's
yeah.
so many tools now. Like if you want to sell digital books, yeah, you could even set up a DTC store selling your
Mm.
own novels and ebooks and stuff like that directly, and cut out Amazon completely nowadays. There's plenty of tools to do it. So But yeah,
Yeah.
if you're going to buy one, try to build an email list. Don't be platform dependent.
Such a good piece of advice, Greg. I typically, when people say, when I ask people if they own a business and they say, yeah, I own a Amazon business, I believe they don't actually own the business.
Yeah.
Amazon owns the business and they're using their platform as a channel. It's kind of like, yeah, I own a Facebook business and you sell products on Facebook. Well, Facebook can take your page down at any time.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
the same thing.
So this is why I'm a big fan of, say, Shopify stores over Amazon FBA. Like, I get asked this question all
Yeah.
the time, like which one's easier? And my answer is like, well, Amazon FBA is definitely the easier one. But if you want to make crazy good money, then you should go the Shopify route, because if you have a Shopify store that has a funnel that is converting and is profitable, it's not that hard to put that product on Amazon and get a halo effect of it. Like if you're running an ad to your Shopify store for like a mic and people really like that mic, but then they forget what was your store's name and they type in Amazon for that type of mic and they see your mic come up, like that's the one. You know, your ad converted. That is unattributed. You're never going to know that's the reason why it happened, but that's the halo effect. Versus if you went the other way around, if you were selling this on just as an Amazon product, you have no bottom of funnel data. You can't know what is working half the time, even when you're using Amazon ads, because they don't give you all the information. So when you try to
Mm.
make this into a Shopify store, it is way significant harder to make that campaign work than you expect. And you've priced this to be competitive on Amazon, not priced it to be competitive on a paid funnel that converts. So your chances
Mm.
of failure are way, way, way higher going from FBA to Shopify than the other way around.
It is very hard to go from take something off Amazon to Shopify or whatever WooCommerce. It is far harder, and I've helped people do
Yeah,
both.
it's painful.
I actually, yeah, it's. I've got one client that helped him scale his business significantly, and he started off in Amazon FBA. He does 8 figures, and we took it off Amazon, and he makes more profit margin off Amazon, and then he moved it from his Shopify business to global markets, and then also started to then look at affiliates, and he got set up with different big affiliate programs that run his affiliate campaigns. And then he also is selling in stores in Europe and England and stuff like that. It's a medical device, and uh, has got approvals and stuff like that, like FDAs and all that sort of stuff. And when people see something in the store or see something on affiliate, then they also can still go back, not just from the Shopify store, but they can also go back to Amazon, like, oh, cool, this is the same product on Amazon, and you get that halo effect from multiple channels.
Yeah.
That's a really cool way to scale.
100%. And what he's doing there, by the way, that's a reason why, like, even if you're into affiliate, you should eventually look at e-commerce. Like, if you run an affiliate site, that's a great testing bed on what kind of product you should buy. Like, you could look at, like, if you just do Amazon affiliate, you can see what is the most common thing my audience is buying and build an email list of those people and then launch your own version of that. That's like one of the softest ways to get into e-commerce. But then you could do stuff like what he's doing, which he owns all the bottom of funnel data, which is where the real money is.
Yeah, exactly. So what about some other different? So we've gone through, your FBA, and you're also selling content sites, SaaS and membership businesses as well. But what about newsletters and YouTube channels and these different types of business? They're online businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
What other unique ones, and how often do you sort of sell these unique types of businesses?
So we don't sell many YouTube channels, which is a real shame because we definitely would love to, as long as
Yeah.
they're not personality branded. If they're like more like faceless YouTube channels where it's like
Mm,
easy to put someone else in place, like we love those. Like we sold one at a client. I think she bought it for around $30,000, something like that. It was a
mm.
very small YouTube channel, and now it makes $30,000 a month. Like every month, it makes the same amount that she bought it
So
for.
yeah, YouTube's
So
where it's at. Hey.
yeah, I love it. I mean, most of my friends in the affiliate space, they add on a YouTube channel as an afterthought. And now most of
Mm.
them, before they start a new site, they'll start the YouTube channel first to see if it works, because it's so much easier to get traffic in their view. So
Yeah.
that's one. For we do sell info product businesses, so like your traditional like course that might be worth, you know, $200, $700, whatever. Usually
Mm.
not in the make money online space. What I we found is in the make money online space, things change so often that the owner really does need to be an expert, or they just stop updating the course completely, and then it loses all validity. But in other spaces like you know, certain engineering exams, architectural exams, stuff like that, those are really good niches because one, they're
Mm.
really boring. No one wants to get into them, but there's tons of people who need that information, and it doesn't change that often. So you very rarely need to update anything. And it's not that big of a hassle to like go and hire an architectural student to update the course for you, or a professor or whatever. It's
Mm.
relatively straightforward. So those info courses are really, really good. It's been a hot minute since we sold mobile apps, but mobile apps are also quite intriguing, as long as, again, that you're building a list, because you're playing on Apple or Android's platform in that case. So there's always a platform you're playing on. So like the most
Yeah.
common advice I give is, you know, build your own email list.
Yeah, definitely. You need to own the list, otherwise you don't really own the business. Uh, we we helped somebody buy an Instagram account once,
Hmm.
and they used that as lead flow into the business they already had. So they put it, they plugged it into one of their primary businesses, which is a really good channel for them. I love what you're talking about with the YouTube affiliates and content site owners starting up a YouTube channel. What I see is those businesses that are those content businesses, or any sort of website that has a YouTube channel that runs alongside it, is that traffic. When you look at it in Google Analytics 4, that traffic that comes from video is the highest engagement rate, and typically is that's where you're going to get your best ad revenue and the highest intent as well for affiliate too. Like, they're
Oh,
closer
100%.
to
Yeah.
buying, they've just watched a video of maybe an unboxing or a video about a certain product, and you know two different products, they're ready to buy as soon as they come from YouTube to your site. It's like the best form.
100%. Like we started YouTube about 2 years ago for EF, and we got more serious
Yeah.
about it this year. I finally handed off the reins to one of my content specialists to take it over for me.
Mm.
Our view counts are low. Like it's not uncommon for a video to only get like 120, 180 views. Sometimes we'll get like 600, and sometimes we really knock out of the park and get like over 1,000, but it's super rare. And if you're
Mm.
looking at our channel and comparing us to, say, like Mr. Beast, like we're a complete failure, right? Like these guys are pathetic. They're awful at this, right?
No,
But
but
that
there's a huge difference there. Is like, you might have a small channel, but you're in a very different niche
exactly,
where
exactly.
the money is so good for with a small channel in this
Yeah,
niche. Yeah.
100%. Like, so that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, so if you're building out a YouTube channel and your YouTube channel is getting a small amount of views, do not fret, because these guys convert, and over time it will become like one of your best traffic assets. Like for us, it's our third best performing channel now at EF. Like,
Yeah.
even though we have so low views, we've made millions of dollars off of this thing. So like
Yeah.
you couldn't ask for a better return on spend. Like it's just as good, if not better, than SEO in some cases. But yeah.
Yeah, and like, surely Empire Flipper's main channel is the blog, because that thing's an absolute beast.
Yes.
I've done the absolute opposite, right? With Bob, I went hard on video content and YouTube, and then slowly am starting to get into SEO. And I haven't done SEO, like literally hadn't done any SEO on my site until 2023.
Wow,
It's
that surprises me. Oh,
Yeah,
with
it's
all your knowledge of
ridiculous.
affiliate and SEO, like I would have thought that would have been a mainstay for you. But yeah, for us,
Just wasn't it?
blogging.
Yeah. Yeah, blogging is, yeah, there's I just didn't really, in this space, I guess. I went into a pool where there wasn't a lot of people looking to buy businesses, especially on YouTube, and I just got lucky that I sort of carved out that space and own a chunk of that sort of market cap and domain in YouTube. and you guys have sort of paved the way with blogging. And now I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I should actually do something about
Yeah.
this
Well, it was probably a
here.
good move, right? Because you were tackling a blue ocean versus the red ocean with us and the other guys blogging, and we were
Yeah,
podcasting too. But I don't think anyone was doing any videos until like us going onto YouTube. Like we were, I feel like we were the first broker on YouTube, even though we definitely weren't. There was other ones
yeah,
on there, but like one of my competitors had 27 subscribers and like 80 videos, and none of them had over 30 views. And like,
yeah,
wow. So like
yeah,
the bar is set pretty low.
yeah. It's very low. It
So
was very low. Yeah,
I think it's still very low.
yeah.
I think there's they basically us, you, and I think there's like one other person that talks about buying online businesses that has some modicum of success, but like there's no like
Mm,
huge breakout channel, and everyone else is like doing pretty bad. Like I saw one
yeah,
channel, their shorts were even low, like 8 views on a short. Like wow,
yeah.
how I didn't know you could get that few views on a short.
Setting low records. Yeah,
Yeah. So like it makes me feel better because I like Nick and I, and Nick is the guy running our YouTube channel. Like we often
yeah,
are like, man, well, we know we're missing something, which we are. We don't know what, but there's something we're not doing right, and we're trying to figure it out. But then we look at the other channels, like, well, this makes us feel better. At least we're doing better than this.
I want to stick with. I got some more questions that I want to come
Sure.
back to around Empire Flippers and stuff like that, multiples and whatnot, and trends. But sticking with the YouTube channel, guys, go away and check out Empire Flippers YouTube channel. Greg has done a great job. In fact, there was a video that you put out, wasn't that long ago, about AI. Did AI just kill affiliate marketing? Do you want
Yes,
to talk?
yes, yes.
Do you want to talk to a little bit more about that, about affiliate
Yes.
marketing and AI, and how AI could possibly kill it?
Yeah, so I'm super into AI. I'm embracing the robot overlords. But there's all this hype in the space, like yeah, SEOs, we're drama queens, like we're the most dramatic form of marketers of any marketing. Like I'm in a bunch of paid media groups and stuff like that. Like no one is as dramatic as the SEOs. So like everyone is talking about how SEO is dead, which you and I have both heard over the years many times. And like, no, this
Mm,
time it's serious because it's AI. Like Google is dead. Google is going to die overnight. All the blah 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 blah. Right. And so I started looking into it and started using AI a lot in our own processes. Like this is amazing. Like
yeah.
AI is good enough as is to kill low end writers like right away, no doubt about it. You
Mm,
just don't need someone who's super skilled to write about plumbing in Perth. You just need like someone who's competent because no one's even reading that article, right? Like they
yeah,
go to
yeah,
the plumber's website just to click on the call us now button, right?
yeah, yeah.
So I started looking into it deeper, and then we lost a 300. I think it was either a 300 or $400,000 site. I keep forgetting the number, but we lost that deal because the buyer backed out because they bought into the hype that Google was going to die because of ChatGPT and OpenAI. And I was like, okay, well, this is getting a
Oh,
bit ridiculous. Like
yeah.
people are at once overrating and underrating AI. Like underrating, like I see a bunch of people like Google will never allow AI. Like, what do you mean? Of course they will. They probably spent more money on building an AI than ChatGPT did. Like because
I
they just
said
haven't
that at the
released it.
very start. Yeah, I said
Yeah,
that at the very start, to be honest. And now I'm
yeah.
like, okay, it can't be ignored.
Yeah, like so like it doesn't make sense for Google to punish AI. Like maybe they would, but it just seems so counterintuitive with what their mission is. So I never believed that they were going to punish AI. But then there was like the writers like, oh, it doesn't have the human touch. Like you don't need that for most things you're reviewing. Like if I'm reviewing this microphone, it doesn't need to be Ernest Hemingway level of lyricism singing into my heart. Like I'm
Yeah.
saying this as a writer. Like I write poetry and novels. I'm a big fan of literature, but I see the
Mm,
writing on the wall. So there's that underrating, and then there's overrating. Like Google was going to die. So I decided to dive very deep into this, research all the different numbers, all that kind of stuff. The TLDR is if Google actually did switch over to a ChatGPT style of search, where Google did die, as we know it at least, Google would literally bankrupt their entire business because the cost involved is so dramatic. So, for example, OpenAI, the people who built ChatGPT, the entire development cost, the laborious labor, the GPUs, server farms, everything, all the coding that they did, the cost to make something as revolutionary as ChatGPT, that entire cost is eclipsed in 1 week of people using ChatGPT. The token burns of just using it at its current user base is more in 1 week than the entire cost of making the thing. That's
Mm.
wild. So I
Yeah,
forget
it's
the
wild.
exact numbers, but the cost of a search, like Google search, is like 0.00005 cents. So like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a cent. Now, when you do a search using LM, language learning model, I think it's like 5 or maybe 6 times more expensive. So just that alone would increase Google's OpEx by $100 billion. Like this is wildly
Mm.
big, costly. And then you have to factor in that, okay, all their GDN network, Google Display Network, which does include YouTube, so it's hard to understand like the separation, but it's not just YouTube ads, it's all the people using AdSense on their websites. If they put ChatGPT in there, if they took it over, something akin to that, they would overnight destroy 2 million publisher websites who get a lot of their profit from Google, right? And Google would destroy that own profit center themselves. So that's about $19 billion that they would lose right out of the gate. And then there's also their search ads, the actual in like when you type in Google, the
At the
ads that
top
come
of the
up there.
search bar. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like no one knows how to monetize an AI chat, so it would be assumed that that would either also be destroyed or at least severely wounded. So right here we're looking at a 45 or roughly like a $39 billion additional cost to Google by doing these two things, and that's just their advertising game. That doesn't include the language learning model costs of each search that would happen, which would be significant considering Google's market share. So when you add that in, Google would be making about negative $9 billion a year, which is not great. So like they would absolutely destroy themselves. So in the article, I go through this whole thing with the actual numbers that I researched. I think if something untoward was to happen, it would probably be Bing, because Bing has a lot less to lose than Google. Bing makes up only 5% of Microsoft's revenue versus Google makes up probably like 99% of Alphabet's revenue. So Microsoft could be like, and the CEO actually did say this. He said he wants Google to come out and dance. Like he wants to put the fire at their feet, right? And so he's going aggressive. And what he could do is turn Bing into the history's largest loss leader in the world, where he just absolutely destroys Bing's revenue by making an LLM and just like totally destroying Google, forcing them to compete, making Google's profit margins thinner and thinner and thinner, with no real goal
Mm.
of actually having Microsoft Bing replace Google. Like that battle will never happen, I don't think. Like it'll never be won. But he can seriously wound Google if he doesn't mind causing some own self-infliction upon himself, which I think they are okay with that, because any new market share with Bing, really they just use that to upsell other Microsoft products. So that's kind of the landscape. I think nothing will like change within the next 5 years. People
Yeah.
think like everything's going to change like today. Like no, it won't. Like in 5 years there will be significant changes, and most likely it will go through a transition similar to back when we had the yellow pages and transition to search engines. So search
Yeah.
engines accomplishes the exact same thing as the yellow pages, but it is in a completely different medium. And I think once we figure out how AI looks like, it'll be very similar. Like search will go away completely, and there will be something that replaces it that is a new rendition that does the same thing. And there's going to be opportunities in there for us too.
Yeah, so grateful for your breakdown there, and so glad that you said that it's not going to happen in 2 months or 3 months or
No,
5 months or
yeah,
six
yeah.
months because
Uh,
like most
Jared,
people are
I
freaking, right?
so,
Like,
I said like in the article, if everything went perfectly, maybe this could happen in 2 years. But considering Bing's AI is having an existential meltdown and telling people to divorce their wives, we can already see this is not going as well as they thought it was going to
yeah,
go.
yeah. I mean, you've got these big billion-dollar companies that haven't just come out and just flattened OpenAI yet, and Google could be, I dare say these big billion-dollar companies have some cards up their sleeves. They've got the resources, so the landscape can change
Yeah.
massively. And
Google, in my view, has a much better AI than OpenAI. The reason why
yeah,
Bard is doing worse than, say, Bing and ChatGPT, because Bing and ChatGPT is the same thing, but Google
yeah,
never wanted it to go public. It wasn't ready in their eyes. So they never
no,
trained their model for public consumption. That's why Bard fell flat on his face. But I don't know this for sure, but my guess is Google's AI is significantly stronger than OpenAI's.
yeah, they have so much data, so many resources, and
Yeah.
I get tools sent to me, AI tools sent to me so regularly, and it's cool to see that there's the possibilities and you can start using these tools, but I don't know which one to actually go with yet because I might learn one and put it into my business as a system. And then in a year's time, there may be something that's far better, but I'm already
Mhm.
locked in with the stickiness of SOPs and team and training in one thing. So I've been I'm learning about it. I've been admittedly slow to add it into my business because not that I'm ignoring it completely. I just feel like in the next 2 to 5 years, then we're going to start to see the real opportunities. I think we've just started to sort of peel back the curtain slightly with this AI stuff, and I think eventually, over time, that's where the amazing opportunity is going to be. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's hard to stay abreast of everything. So I joke that the first jobs and companies that AI is going to kill is the previous AI companies. So like, uh, there's like Jasper, right, or Jarvis.
Yeah,
I think they go by Jasper now. They've changed their name so many times, but they were the hot shit. Like they sponsored Inbound in Boston. Like that's
yeah,
not cheap.
yeah,
That's the HubSpot
yeah,
event. I was there for. I was shocked. Like, oh man, these guys are doing really well. But
yeah.
if you look at all these AI companies, almost 100% of them are really open AI companies because they're all using OpenAI's API to make it happen. They just build the model based on top of that. So I have a
Mm,
friend, Matt Zimmerman. He came out with ZimWriter, and ZimWriter is like a way better version of Jasper. Like the UI is really shit. It's very clunky and like it's not great, but
mm,
like you're not paying it for that. You're paying it for the results, right? And it lives on
hmm
site on your computer. So instead of it being cloud based, it's a actual desktop app that you have that plugs into your own OpenAI API. So Jasper, the way they make their money is they significantly charge an upsell on the OpenAI tokens that you're burning through their API account versus ZimWriter, you pay a lifetime or a very small monthly fee, and you burn as many tokens of your own as you want, and it's way cheaper. Like a 5,000 word blog post only cost me 20 cents. Like on Jasper, that would have been much more expensive. So this is why I'm
mm.
joking. Like the AI companies will kill the previous AI companies, especially now that everyone realizes all the AI companies are literally just like
Using
OpenAI API.
OpenAI, yeah,
but
yeah.
uh but yeah, so to answer your question in terms of staying abreast of this, I just interviewed the one of the leaders of the Marketing for AI Institute, and he gave really good advice. He said you should you should get on Twitter, create some Twitter lists of the people that are talking about AI. You should use a
Mm,
brand mentioning software like mention.com, peak metrics, whatever you like to use, and put in all the AI tags you can find just to stay abreast of it because everything changes so quickly. So that article that I broke down about AI killing affiliate marketing, one of my friends, he really wanted to know what I had to say about it, and he decided to deep fake me by taking 1 minute, 2 minutes of me speaking on YouTube, throwing it in 11 labs, and then he was like, you know what, this needs some visuals, and he threw the results into Pictory to throw together like charts, graphs, like imagery, with and background music. So now there's a fake version of me reading my 5,000 word blog post to him, and it took him less than 5 minutes to do. So these
yeah,
are tools that are extremely powerful. Like if you're an affiliate site owner, you could literally throw your blog post into 11 labs. They have the best synthetic voices that are out there, or you can just deep fake yourself, and then throw it into Pictory, and it'll make the entire video for you. And is it going to be like Die Hard or like some Oscar nominated video? No, it doesn't have to be to work to be successful.
yeah.
So yeah, that's
And
my
that's just
advice.
now. That's just now. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember this is what a month or two ago. I saw that on Facebook because I'm friends with you on Facebook. I saw that You had, hey, my friend just deep
Yeah,
faked me
I
with
thought it was
this,
very funny.
me reading my own article. And that's just now, right? Like it's going to be very different in
Oh,
3 years time, the landscape.
like
And I think
the
a lot of people are freaking out now about, but I think the real good stuff is yet to come.
Oh yeah, I mean, like right now we can't do like what we're doing right now. We couldn't make a video of an actual person talking like this without
No.
tons of CGI effects. But I bet down the road with AI that you could record like 20 minutes of you talking and body language and all this kind of stuff, and you could just create endless videos of yourself doing that way. I will say, like, I would recommend using for you and your audience. I would recommend deep diving AI tools today because there is a golden window that will last about 18 months, maybe 16 months, where not everyone is utilizing AI and you can destroy the competition. So, for example, I'm deep faking myself for the team. I was going to have Nick do it for the YouTube channel, but he was uncomfortable. I was like, "Well, Nick, you know that you've already done enough videos. I could just deep fake you, but I won't. I won't force you into it." So I'm deep faking myself to where my team can have me say, anything for
Anything.
shorts,
Yeah.
and now we can basically use a mixture of ChatGPT, our own M&A knowledge and strategy of like content that we know that's working, where if we wanted to, I could produce 100 shorts a day without me ever actually having to record anything. And
Yeah.
you like just put it on a background, you put it on Pictory or something like that, and it does all of it for you. So this is a golden window of opportunity for people to really double down on it, and it won't be around forever because, like I said, eventually everyone is going to catch on. You're going to be back at an equilibrium point. So I would recommend anyone listening to go hard on AI now. Figure out how to use it and really double down on it.
Love it. Love it. Uh, Now, coming back to online businesses and empire flippers, what
Mhm.
trends are you guys seeing, like data on businesses sold, multiples, how fast are they selling, slow are they selling? Like, what's the landscape been like lately compared to what it has been like?
Sure. So, in 2020 and 2021, we called it the season of the seller. The seller had the
Mm.
best time ever, best life
Oh,
ever.
yes. Yeah.
Nowadays, the seller is having a very bad time.
Yeah.
They're not doing nearly as good. Their choices are much more limited on who they can sell to, and they have to take deals they would have never thought to take back in 2020, 2021. Though if it
Yep.
was 2019, they would still think it's a good deal. But recency bias.
Hmm.
So with all the fallout in the private equity market, the capital markets, all that kind of stuff, like the amount of buyers just do not exist at the same level as they did before, and not even in the same numbers. Like there's still buyers, but they are afraid to deploy capital. Because a buyer can buy in a bad market or in a good market and make a good deal, but what buyers are afraid of the most is an uncertain market. And I feel like right now we're in this elongated uncertainty of what is actually happening, and that
Hmm.
paralyzes capital. Capital doesn't like uncertainty, it likes to know what it's doing, right? So that creates a vacuum of no buyers for sellers. Now, there are still deals are getting done, but it's just much harder. So this is really good news for your crowd.
Oh,
When
yeah.
it's bad for sellers, it's usually good for buyers, right? So because there's less competition, sellers are willing to take offers they wouldn't accept before. And what we're seeing is between 10 to 20% lower than our list price, where a lot of the deals are starting to happen. And this is after like rigorous renegotiations, all this kind of stuff back and forth.
Hmm.
So like don't go in and think like, oh, Greg said 20% less than list price, easy. That would just do that with every offer. Like you have to fight for it, right? Because
Yep.
seller expectations are still living in the fantasy of 2021, not in
Hmm.
2023. So
Mm.
it's an adjustment where the seller has to like come to terms with reality, right? So what I think will happen over the next few months is you'll see multiples slowly start dropping on our marketplace. This is something I've been predicting for months. It's not anything new. I actually
Me
thought it
too.
would have happened a
I
while
thought it would
back
be
ago. Yeah.
start happening at the end of 2022, and it
Yeah, me
started
too.
to
Yes.
happen
Yes.
around the Feb range in 2023, for what I've
Yeah.
noticed anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're going to notice a more significant drop. Like And when it comes to these drops, it's not like a stock price where it falls down the cliff
Plummet.
until Wall Street
Yeah.
bets can get in on it. Right? Usually, it's like much slower.
Yeah.
We're kind of like real estate in the sense that we're a lagging indicator of asset value. Because when
Mm.
real estate drops, usually something bad happened like months before that drop, and real estate is just like catching up to that bad thing.
Yep.
But yeah, so
Agreed.
I think valuations are going to go down. Right now is great for buyers if you're good at negotiating, but keep in mind that the seller expectations are unrealistic because they are still high on the 2020-2021 party that is now over.
Yeah, I saw a deal just yesterday, and I'm going through it and reviewing the due diligence. And I'm looking at this deal, and I didn't know the price of it until I got closer to the bottom. And I was like, wow, this is like a lot of good metrics here. This business is looking good. This is going to go for around a 45, 42 to 45 multiple. It hadn't sold yet, and it was at a 31.5 multiple. And it was a great deal. And I'm usually very pessimistic about deals and trying to. I try to tell people not to buy. That's like my main job is to show people what I like to do is I like to prove a business is a bad investment, and if you can't, then you must buy. And this one, I was just sitting there like I'm like I can't say no to you not buying this. It's a good deal. Obviously, understand the risks, and if you're okay with them, go
Right.
forwards and do
Yeah.
it. But like that was just very eye opening to me, and I believe that as the economy as well has a bit to do with it too, which is where I came out with my predictions at the end of last year, with interest rates tightening up, less cash flow, people having to spend more to repay their home loans and their even good debts and bad debts, and some people are needing to sell their businesses for a lesser price than what they would ideally want to. And it's I'm starting to see some sellers, I mean buyers, really get some absolute deals.
Yeah, 100%. And for the sellers out there who are like, they feel diminished by this, like I get it, but multiples are still higher today than they were in 2019 by a significant amount. So at
Yeah,
least you weren't
yeah,
selling in 2019, which wasn't a buyer's or seller's market necessarily. I guess it was even more of a buyer's market back then because the multiples being lower, but like multiples were significantly lower in 2019 and 2018 than they are today. So you still have plenty of opportunity to make a life changing exit. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
yeah, it's not like the
yeah.
same as 2020 and 2021, but a few $1 million in your pocket, you're going to be, still smiling.
Definitely, definitely. And it's we need to sort of make sure people understand that the online business market doesn't follow and parallel crypto and stocks and ETFs and whatnot. I see it like you
Excuse
said
me.
as well. It's kind of like the real estate market is way more slower moving, and the drops or the little kickbacks are not as significant. If you look at the overall trend, it's a very fair over from say 2005 to 2025. It's a very steady line,
100%. Yeah.
increasing without too many troughs. So,
Yeah. I
yeah,
would say your opportunity to monetize is so much better than in real estate. Like, real estate is less risky and more stable, but you can't double your rent in a year unless you
yeah,
are like you might get into a lawsuit depending on where you are to try to do that.
yeah,
But if you double your affiliate site income within a year, that's completely reasonable in the realm of digital marketing. Like going from
yeah,
$2,000 to $4,000 a month often is not that crazy of a jump. It is
yeah.
usually easier than going from zero to $1,000 a month. I can tell you that.
It is. It is. Zero to 1,000 is a tough gig. I have
Yeah.
actually been there. um, but yeah, when you've got resources and time and can make strategic moves, it is a lot easier. Last thing I want to talk about with you, Greg, is uh, buying and selling businesses. Empire Flippers has evolved a lot since I got into this game and started buying businesses from you guys, and since I started teaching. And it's you guys have made some cool changes. Where do you see, like, in terms of asking for proof of funds. Your marketplace has changed a lot. How you go through a deal from zero to hero, start to end, with a seller and with a buyer. So many cool things that you guys have put in place. How do you see the M&A and the buying and selling of businesses evolving? Can you see some cool things coming down the line?
Yeah. I think there's no like major changes to the stuff that you said there. We're just keeping on improving and iterating on the processes, and our
Mm,
custom platform's been huge on that front. I think one thing that is quite big that is unforeseen. Like I don't know what changes exactly will come in this. I have some ideas, but I don't want to talk about it yet because it'll be a surprise if we do it.
of course.
But one of the things that has always somewhat bothered me was that we lean into being a broker, like an M&A broker versus an M&A marketplace. But the
Mm,
actual audience views us as a marketplace. Like you just said marketplace, right? Versus if I was one of my competitors, you probably would have used the word broker. Now, we've always
yes.
leaned into trying to tell people, no, we're really a broker with the marketplace, or
Mm,
this white glove service, all this stuff. And white glove, this is a hot take. People don't like this sometimes, but I think white glove is stupid. Like I think anyone that says you want a white glove service doesn't know what they're talking about.
mm,
Everyone wants an assembly line, no matter what. They want something that works, is
predictable.
predictable, the outcome
Yeah.
is guaranteed, or at least certain what it will be. Versus white glove is like, I'm telling you, I don't know what the assembly line looks like, but I'm going to feed you some chocolate, give you some whiskey, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
Like cool.
you're being very vulnerable and opening yourself up to a lot, right?
Right.
In that,
Yeah. So like
yeah.
this bespoke type of thing, like I don't think it really exists. I don't think people really want it. So we are white, like we're an assembly line with the veneer of the white glove service. Like we treat our customers very, very well,
Mm,
but we're not truly bespoke like that. So one of the things that I think is interesting, this is conversations I brought up with the founders and the management team recently, and they so far seem to be interested in what I'm saying is, instead of us leaning into being the broker, when if we lent more into being the marketplace? Because we've
mm,
invested so much in technology with our engineering staff, all this kind of stuff. Like, why wouldn't we? Like, that's where the real asset is for the business. So I think in the future we're going to be unleashing a lot more marketplace features, capabilities, that will help expand our footprint across the industry. And ideally, if I have it my way, it won't just be helpful to us, but it could even be helpful to some of our competitors, depending on how we roll it out. So
mm.
that's my tease. So I think us leaning into and growing our marketplace functionality is going to be a big thing over the next year or two.
Love it. That's a good note to finish on, guys. Stay tuned for those changes, and how buying and selling of businesses is going to evolve. I'm excited to see what comes from it. I just want to say thank you for all that you guys do at Empire Flippers. It's awesome to watch your evolution and be able to send some people to you to buy some great businesses. And thanks so much for coming on, Greg. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Jared. Always a pleasure, man.
Yeah. Guys, we'll put links to Empire Flippers in the show notes, and also our previous episode that we did 200 episodes ago, Greg.
You can see non-beard me and bearded me. Tell me which one you
Yeah.
like, Fat Ragnar Lothbrok or Young Nervous Greg.
I've only got a headshot. I've only got a headshot of you with no beard. So if you want a headshot with a beard, you're gonna have to send that one over.
I'll send
Yeah.
you over my my speaker picture.
Perfect. All right. Thanks so much, Greg.
All right, see you, man.
Hey YouTube watcher, if you thought that video was good, you should check out this video here on the 2 best types of websites beginners should buy. Or check out my playlist on how I made my first 100K from buying websites and how to do due diligence. Check it out. It's an awesome playlist. You'll enjoy it.